academician with industry experience. She is assistant professor at IIT Roorkee and also executive advisor on corporate affairs and policy at Honeywell International Private Limited. Now, she has been working in the domain of energy efficient buildings, green buildings, and passive design measures for several years. Her vision is to facilitate architects and building professionals in order to make every building as sustainable and energy efficient. Her research endeavors are step towards the same. Now I would like to request Dr. Avlokitha Agrawal to address the session.
Thank you for a generous introduction, Ruma. So, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are very much audible.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. So, I'm Avlokitha, and I'm currently teaching at IIT Roorkee. And as Ruma has mentioned, my prime focus of inquiry is into sustainable built environment, and which is what I'm going to talk about. So I was listening to Professor Reddy just a while back during the inauguration, and the points that Professor raised are very pertinent. And uh, if we look at the developed part of the world, largely, that is the direction which the world is taking. We are moving towards technology with the help of technology, and what we are trying to do is we are trying to build a more sustainable and a better world with the help of technology, and which is going to be the way, because technology is an integral part of our existence now. However, there is a counter theory which we are simultaneously working on. So, on one hand, while we are looking at technological means of enhancing energy efficiency in building, sustainability in well-built environment, we are simultaneously looking at our behavior, the societal behavior, community behavior, and the rate of consumption. And many a times it has come to the fore that despite all the technological innovations that we can have or we can put in place, the world is still not going to become a sustainable place. And that is because the rate at which we are consuming the resources is extremely high, and the Earth planet cannot sustain so many highly consuming beings, human beings, living beings together. Either the human beings, the overall population of human beings will reduce, or uh, there will be, least less amount of resources. So we will either have to reduce our consumption. So either we reduce or we reduce our consumption. So what we started looking at was, where is this need playing a role? So what we consume, is it really what we need, or what we are consuming is driven by a social behavior? So if I can be comfortable with the given family size in a two-room bungalow, I would still feel that I need to have a bigger bungalow, a bigger house, simply because my society, my community collectively tells me, my behavior, which is driven by this community, tells me that I should be having more, I should be needing more. While there is a contradiction in terms of what we need versus what we really think we need. So there was this difference between actually needing something and thinking uh, what we need. So I have readied a small presentation uh, to share. Um, is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
I'll just put it on. Yeah. Okay, so with this little background on understanding sustainability as a perception of needs, I will carry forward this presentation, which I've titled as Sustainability: What We Need versus What We Think We Need. So, sustainability. Why at all are we talking about sustainability? So, the world is talking about sustainability now. Almost 2 centuries back, 1.5 centuries back, we were not even discussing these issues. So now we are discussing about sustainability. It is a well established term now. A century back, people didn't even know what sustainability or what sustainable development is. Today, we are talking about it because there is an urgency, there is a need. So there is reduced availability of clean drinking water. Whatever water is available is highly polluted, which is what Professor was also talking about. There is no land to grow food, no clean land to grow food. The air is has become highly contaminated to breathe. We can't even be breathing that air, and if at all we are breathing that air, we are bound to have a lot of diseases, a lot of problems. Our jungles are burning. That's across the world. The global temperature is increasing. The jungles are burning. That was about the natural environment. If you're looking at urban areas, we see that there is so much of traffic congestion in urban areas. We can't commute. There is so much of noise pollution. Air is not there. Water is not there. We cannot see greens. So there are a lot of problems. Our cities are becoming more and more crowded. If we talk to our parents, if you talk to your grandparents, you would often hear them saying that, oh, this place in our times, this place was all fields, this was all jungles, and now there are urban settlements, there are habitations. So the cities and people are moving more and more towards cities because the cities offer more, they promise more of opportunities, financial opportunities, mainly economic opportunities. So our cities, our urban areas are overcrowding. There is an acute shortage of open and green spaces in our cities, and this representative picture could be from anywhere in the world. It's almost the same. We have we have an acute shortage of these open and green spaces. So all this put together, I have just borrowed some words from Ramchandra Guha, one of his very interesting books, How Much Should a Person Consume. So in that, he sums it up like this. So we have more people producing more, traveling more, consuming more, and excreting more. So there is a much faster rate of resource consumption than ever, and a much faster pace at which resources are being transformed into waste. So waste itself is a problem. The depleting resources are a problem, and all this because there are so many more people on Earth who are consuming more. So there are multiple problems. We are so many more as compared to just 2 centuries back, and these more number of people are also consuming at a much faster rate. Their rate of consumption is much higher, and we are excreting more. We are producing more waste. We are traveling more. So all that together is a very big problem. So what? Still, why at all are we worried? How many of you are worried for this lean polar bear? This polar bear is going to be the polar bear as a species is going to be extinct in some time probably because its habitat is being encroached upon. Its habitat is changing what its original habitat was. It cannot have food. It cannot procure food for itself. So this polar bear is dying. How many of us are worried because all these things are leading towards dying of this polar bear? Probably none. We are a selfish race. human beings are a selfish race. All we want to do is we want to survive and we want to thrive at the cost of anything, probably. So are we worried about? We are worried about our own existence. We are worried that if we continue to go like this, probably in couple of years we would not survive, since we do not have clean air, water, land to grow food. So we may not exist, and that is what is keeping us worried, and that is the reason why we are talking about sustainability and sustainable development. Gradually, through discussions starting from a lot of pioneers like Rachel Carlson and a couple of visionaries long back, till date, this concept of sustainability, this idea of sustainable development, has only strengthened through discussions. So all of us academicians and practitioners and everybody has come to the consensus that, oh yes, sustainability is something that we should be able to achieve, and we should be able to achieve that through sustainable development. And what is sustainable development? So sustainable development is where we are bringing everybody together. So we are bringing environment and people and economics. So we're bringing everybody together to have a sustainable solution. Sustainability. So sustainability is again a very vague term. Okay, you cannot really quantify sustainability. So it's a very vague term, and it has been defined by different people and different organizations in a variety of ways. So one of the definitions, as per Thomas Jefferson's Sustainability Council, it says that sustainability may be described as our responsibility to proceed in a way that will sustain life, that will allow our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren to live comfortably in a friendly, clean, and healthy world. So we are looking at ways so that we can sustain life, not just for ourselves, but also our future generations to live comfortably in a friendly, clean, and healthy world. Another definition says, which is by Caring for Earth organization, that improving sustainability is improving the quality of human life while living within the carrying capacity of supporting ecosystems. So here we are talking about improving the quality of human life while living within the carrying capacity of supporting ecosystems. So we take only that much amount which is available to us from the supporting ecosystem, and we are well within the carrying capacity. So well within the carrying capacity of the supporting ecosystem implies that we consume only as much amount of resources as the nature, the ecosystem can replenish within the given period of time, so that this rate of consumption can be continued for a long duration. The definition of sustainability as per our common future, and it's not sustainability but sustainable development, it says that sustainable development is the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Now, in all these definitions of sustainability and sustainable development, we are talking about the rate of consumption of resources. We are talking about the needs of present. And this entire definition, again, to me sounds very, very vague, because it says that it is the development that meets the needs of the present. Now, what is our need? How do we define that this is our need? The needs of one person would vary from the other person, and the need of a person is actually driven, as I was saying initially, is actually driven by the society in which we live. There are people who may just be doing pretty good, happy with just four pair of clothes and a pair of chappals and a very small house and minimal needs. Uh, while at the same time, there may be certain people who need so much more to just stay comfortably. Now, where is that limit to need? Can we really define that need? That how much do we need? Probably not. We cannot define that because it is an individual's view. It is an individual's perception. And this individual's perception is formed because of the upbringing, the growing up, and the environment around him. So we have to, but the fundamental remains, the understanding remains that we have to curb these needs of the present, in the present, so that our future generations can meet their own needs. And there is a whole lot of discussion around this entire idea that where do we limit our needs? Shall we limit the needs to just the carrying capacity? And if you know, by the way, the Earth Overshoot Day, where on the basis of this calculation of carrying capacity, every year almost around, so we've come down to almost July. By July, if we're looking at the entire world together, the entire world population consumes the amount of resources which are ideally supposed to be consumed in an year in 12 months, all by July already. So what is meant to be consumed in 12 months is already consumed in 7 months. This year, because of this pandemic, because a lot of industries were shut, people were not moving, people were not consuming as much. Everybody had just limited their needs, and this was a very good time if I look at that, because we were able to reflect back upon what we really need. Everybody stayed at home. We were still doing reasonably fine. Not everybody, of course, but a large section of the population was still doing reasonably fine. They had food to eat and they had reasonably comfortable homes to be in. And the rate of consumption suddenly dropped down. So this year, the Earth Overshoot Day was in August, almost 3 weeks. It was postponed by 3 weeks. So for the continuously for the last couple of decades, the Earth Overshoot Day has been shifting and it has been reducing. So we consume, the world together consumes a lot more than what we really need to do. And just because of this pandemic, couple of months of the world shutting down, we were able to push it forward to by almost 3 weeks. So we really need to look at what our needs are and we need to where we need to curb them, where we need to put a check on them. So the moment we start talking about these needs and we start understanding them, there is one very simple exercise which I make my students do when I teach them sustainable architecture and sustainable built environment, is to just check from morning till night when you sleep. So in a 24-hour cycle, what is it that you need? Right from getting up in the morning till sleeping in the night and also through the night, what is it that you really need? And then we start putting them in these three different categories of needs, wants, and values. So starting from, and you can do that as an exercise and you will find astonishing results. You will be surprised yourself to see that what we really think is our need is something which I just want because my society values it. Okay? So I am driven by my societal values. societal behavior, and that itself has become my behavioral trait, and that is why I suppose I'm supposed to be needing it while I may not really need it. So we start with this Maslow's hierarchy. All of you might have already seen this Maslow's hierarchy, and the most fundamental of our needs are these physiological needs, where we need air to breathe, we need food to eat, we need water to drink. So these are the most basic physiological needs. So of food, water, shelter, clothing, and sleep. This is the most basic of the need, and everyone needs it. How much? A little bit higher, a little bit lower, is also varying, but this is the fundamental need. Further comes the need for safety and security. We have our health requirements, we need employment, we need to work to earn for our family, for ourselves. We need to have a property, family, and social stability. That is for the sense of safety and security. Once that is fulfilled, we go further where we need love and belongingness. We need to have family around. We need to have friends. We need to have intimate relationships. We need to have the sense of connection. All that is a human need. Further up, we have the need for self-esteem. We need to feel confident. We need to have that sense of achievement where we earn the respect of others, and the need to be a unique individual is the need of self-esteem. And the final one is the need of self-actualization, of creativity, spontaneity, acceptance, experience, a purpose for our existence, and the meaning and our inner potential is all part of self actualization. Now, since we are dealing with architecture, humans have built to satisfy each level of needs. We have buildings and structures which satisfy each level of needs. Okay, and as we go higher up, the needs, say for example the need for self-esteem and self-actualization, they they require bigger and more robust buildings. I just got a Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are
Yes,
audible,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, I just got a message from somebody saying they can't hear me.
No, no, ma'am, you are very much audible. We are looking
Okay,
at the screen of needs at the moment.
yeah, right. Okay, thank
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Okay. So, as we go higher up in this hierarchy of needs, we've been constructing. Uh, I'm sorry. It says there was a pop-up on my screen. It says that my presentation has been muted. I don't know if I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Oh, I don't know. Why do I get this pop-up every time? Okay, anyways. Yeah. So as we go ahead, we have the bigger building needs, but the higher the needs are, the lesser is the number of buildings, lesser is the number of built structures which are required. But as we go higher up, our needs are gradually turning into wants, and gradually the society starts to value. So, just giving you some examples, if we're starting from physiological and safety needs, those were reasonably fulfilled even through these caves. When the man started living in these caves, which were the early abodes of human beings, they were having physiological and safety needs being met through these. However, as we gradually became more of a society, as we grouped together, there were bigger issues of security. And that is why we started seeing buildings like this. This is one of the Havelis in Punjab, which was a region which was frequently attacked, and the people needed to keep themselves safe and secure. So these Havelis have hardly any openings towards the outside, very small, minimal openings. They're all introvert, which with huge courtyards where big, united families would live, multiple families would live together, and that would give them a sense of safety and security besides the physiological comfort that was mandatory. And for this sense of belongingness, so this is an example of rural buildings. People started building clusters of residences, houses together. So they would all bring their buildings closer, and it would give them a sense of belongingness. So this is my community. This is my group of people, and it would also simultaneously support the safety and security needs. And of course, the fundamental remains the physiological needs, which was being fulfilled. This is somewhere in Cameroon, where they have similar types of huts. I think this is Zulu huts, and they have a similar arrangement. So physiological needs coming first, and simultaneously they were being very, very cautious of the amount of resources which are being consumed in constructing these. And then they are all making their buildings together in a group to provide them the sense of belongingness and the sense of safety and security, this need. As the needs became bigger, there was this need of self-esteem. So this is the fort of Chittorgarh, and so building forts was not just for uh, uh, strengthening the sense of security for the um, uh, for a region, for I should say a country, a small state, but it was also of self-esteem. So the fort that the king made is cannot be conquered. It is self-sufficient. It is high up on the hill, and it is so lavish. It is so luxurious. Is a self-esteem where people look up to you. People look at you with a lot of respect and awe, and you feel something important. You have proven your identity. But so we have been building for self-esteem needs, but then again, this cannot be really taken in a very big way. And the last one came self-actualization. So we have religious structures, we have universities. This particular photograph is from Nalanda, the ruins of Nalanda. So we built libraries, we built temples to for satiating the self-actualization need. So as architects, as human beings, as a society, we have been building different structures for satisfying all these needs. But where is the problem? Why can't we continue doing that? Uh, why can't we continue building or developing? The problem being, if you look at all the examples that I showed you, the examples which were satisfying the higher needs of self-esteem and self-actualization are actually collectively fulfilled. So the fort is one in a state, probably. It would just be one or two in a state, and everybody would kind of relate themselves to their fort. Oh, okay, I am a citizen of Chittorgarh, and this is my fort, literally like that. And similarly, say Nalanda is a university, or maybe the temple of Khajuraho. So one of a kind in a state where the society, the entire community collectively comes and relates that, okay, this is what I need. And what is happening in today's times is that everybody wants to fulfill their needs at all levels, all hierarchies, individually. So I want to have a home. So instead of living in a larger community, or a larger building where a number of families are coming together and sharing resources, we want we want to procure all of that individually, and that is putting a lot of pressure, huge pressure on the resources, the ecosystem, and that is why the rate of consumption of these resources is increasing. It has been continuously increasing. Now, when we're talking about needs, we still, this question remains unanswered, that what do we really need? And do these needs change from place to place with varying economic status? And is there a role for culture to play in addressing this problem of unsustainability? So if we look through different geographies, if we look through different cultures, different societies, and try to seek answers for these questions, maybe we can very easily find out answers. We started doing a little survey only for our own country. We haven't stretched it longer, and I would give you a very brief glimpse of what were our initial findings. So we ran this survey through multiple settlements which varied in size. So we had settlements from tier 1 cities and down to remote villages. And in each of these settlements, we had people falling in different economic groups. So there were 3 economic categories and 4 scales of settlements. So we ran this survey exhaustively, and then to just give you a glimpse of the places we went to, and so this is one of the villages in Spiti Valley. Spiti is in Himachal Pradesh, and it is a very, I should say, it lacks resources. Okay, so almost half of the year this entire place is snow covered. It is clad in snow. It heavily snows there, but I mean, it doesn't snow very frequently, but it just snows and then it stays there because the temperatures are extremely low. The land is barren, as you can see from the photograph. The land is barren, they can't grow much, and then the water is extremely scarce. It is almost like desert, and they do not have enough water. Only the snow is there, which is not of much use most of the time. The climate is extremely harsh. It is extremely cold and sunny. So this is what this is a village called Demul in Spiti Valley. This is a village which is very close to IIT Roorkee. It is called Pili Padao, and it is 10 kilometers inside the jungle from the main highway, access highway, and that's the only road. And it is surrounded on 3 sides, 2 sides by reserved forest. On one side is a tributary to river Ganga, and on one side they have shivaliks. So this village cannot expand, and most of the people who are living here are from tribal community called One Gujars, and they share the rights on the forest, so they can have produce from the forest. So this is not as remote as Demul, but it is still fairly connected, but it is also slightly away. This is another village where we went to. This is called Gangi, and Gangi is the last village on the trek route uh, to uh, to this glacier called Khatling. And this is absolutely remote. It has no connectivity of road. There is a trek of almost 15 kilometers to be covered to reach this village called Gangi, and it's in Uttarakhand. This is Roorkee. So we ran the survey in Roorkee with different people. If you ever come to Roorkee, you could see these all the 3 ranges of Himalayas being visible on, of course, a clear sunny day. So this was tier 3 and 4. This is Jaipur, which falls under tier 2. So we ran the survey in Jaipur. In tier 1, we had Delhi and Mumbai. So these are just representative cities. We had many more settlements than these. And then we ran the survey where we were asking people about how intensely do they feel to procure or to fulfill certain needs. And we categorize the needs on the basis of this Maslow's hierarchy, which fell in these four categories. First one is physiological and body comfort, where we ask them about the intensity of their need for procuring basic food, for getting fast food, packed food, fruits. How frequently would they visit a restaurant for water, for clean drinking water, for cleaning themselves, health needs, grooming, clothing, fashion, sleep, work, and leisure. Furniture, how much furniture do they need inside their homes? How intensely do they feel that they should have energy supply, power supply, and they should have domestic workers with them, machines and appliances and vehicles. All this fell into the first category of physiological and bodily comfort. And then we went on to ask them about safety and security. So, as part of the safety and security, how intensely do they feel that they should have a home? Education, the means to education, schools, colleges, removal from danger, physical removal from danger. For example, people who are living in villages are often subject to wild animals, fires, and also natural hazards such as landslides. So all that is part of removal from danger. And money. Uh, so financial, security. So all that was part of safety and security. And the third one was where we asked them how intensely do they feel about having friends around them, having loved ones around them, social groups, the need for entertainment and communication, news and information. All that was part of belongingness. And the last one was of self-esteem, where what people felt about themselves, as far what is their self-image. How intensely do they feel other people to recognize them and to approve of them. So that was the fourth category. And what we found, and which was very interesting, was that if you look at all these categories across, and it was a 5-point scale on which we ran, we can see that tier 1, which is places like Delhi, Mumbai, the people in bigger cities have a higher intensity of need. So it's not just for self-esteem or belongingness, it is for physiological and bodily comfort, where in reality, people in cities have a greater access to these commodities which can be procured to fulfill the physiological and bodily comfort. Despite the availability, or rather because there was so much easily available, that the people in tier 1 cities, in bigger cities, they felt a higher intensity, they felt a greater need to procure. And this need, the intensity of this need for procurement, it came down as we went on to villages, and which was the same as the financial stability, as the economic status became bigger. They felt a greater need to procure the needs, which somewhere implies that the more we have this access to supplies, commodities, and the greater affordability we have, the more we feel, the more intensely we feel about procuring a certain need. So, so if we look at each of these needs, we can see that except for some which I have marked in the circles, we can see that largely the people living in tier 1 cities, they have a higher intensity of this perception of need. So they may not really need all of that, which this difference actually tells us that they may actually not be needing it. For example, vehicles. The people in villages also need vehicles because they're in remote areas. They need to access medical facilities. They need to access educational institutes, and for that, their sense of this need, the perception of need is higher because they are deprived. However, in tier one cities where people are living in these big cities, despite the availability of good public transport and often the vehicles with them, they feel intensely about procuring those. However, we can see a little shift, for example, in clothing. Okay, so in clothing, we can see that people in villages they feel more intensely about procuring a certain need, or well, for sleep, work, and leisure. The people in villages they feel more intensely about fulfilling their need for sleep, work, or leisure. Anyways, we've put these three together, so this is emanating from two things simultaneously. People at times feel more intensely about fulfilling a need because they do not have enough. In several cases from villages, we saw that. And on the other hand, if there is an easy access and easy affordability of procuring certain things, even then the people felt extremely, they felt very intensely about procuring a certain need. So the same thing was seen in almost all the categories, and whether it be self-esteem or belongingness or physiological comfort or the safety and security. What we concluded out of this survey, and also because we were interacting with all these people on a one-to-one basis, we discussed with them. So it was not just a questionnaire which was filled up. It was a kind of a survey where we were interacting with all of them. We found that place is more important than economic status. So if we compare a person living in a village having the same earning versus a person living in a city, in an urban area with the same economic status, the people who are living in city are more likely to feel the intensity of procuring a need. For example, fast food, the food from restaurant. These are not the needs of people living in smaller places because the culture is such that they're not, they've never seen that it's not a part of their lives. Similarly, a lot of other things, fashion accessories. So just because people living in the cities are more exposed, they have an easy access to these fashion accessories, that they feel that they need to procure it. They have a greater intensity. So place is much more important than economic status, and that is because every place has a different culture, and that is what influences consumption. The people in villages may be eating better in terms of nutritional value of food. So what their bodies require, the amount of food that their bodies require to remain healthy, is sufficiently available to them, and that eating a particular kind of food, eating healthy food, eating balanced food might have just become a culture, and this culture influences consumption. So if you go to cities, you would see that probably going to restaurants is not something that we need. We just feel that we need it or we want it because everyone around us is doing that. So it is a culture, it is a behavior, it is a societal behavior which is at work. And the last thing, with better means of communication and transport, this difference between smaller places and bigger places, people earning lesser and more, the difference between the rate of consumption between these different groups, it's diminishing, it's reducing, and that is a cause of worry. If everybody aspires to consume more, aspires to consume at a rate which is much higher, and they are just driven towards that rate of consumption because of a community or societal behavior, this is a worrisome thing. This is extremely worrisome. Couple of decades back, the of course the energy issues have been there, and they've always been increasing, but we have increased our energy production manifold. Okay, we have constructed some of the biggest hydropower dams, and we are setting up nuclear power reactors. We are also setting up solar farms now. We are setting up wind farms now. So there is much more energy. Despite that, there is always this lack, there is this gap between the energy produced and the energy consumed, the peak demands. And that is simply because the consumption is increasing. Couple of decades back, probably when I was a child, and also if there are, I'm not too familiar with who is the audience, but I'm just assuming that you are more of students here. So if I compare my generation with my students' generation, in our generation, hardly any middle income homes would have air conditioners. Now, if you look at it today, almost every household, middle income household, has an air conditioner. Now, it has an implication, it has a direct implication on energy consumption. And it is not, of course, it is an apparent need. Everybody thinks that it is a need. And that is because the community behavior is driving you to think that this is a need. If he is just one example, there are umpteen examples. There are so many things which we think in today's times that they're essential, they're extremely necessary, and we must have them. There is this perception, there is a very intense feeling of procuring that need, while we really do not know how much of that need is what we are perceiving is really a need. So, what I want to conclude and say today is that all of us must revisit our needs, and that is what the world needs actually. We need to check our needs, we need to check what we would, how much should we consume, and then go about it. Yes, on top of that, how we fulfill our needs. So I might still need a glass of water. So if you look at some parts of the world, for example, if you go to Singapore, they recycle they recycle every drop of water. The drinking water comes, a part of the drinking water comes from the recycled water from the sewage. We can't even think of doing that because today we still have the availability where we are treating the sewage and we are just letting it go into the rivers or rivulets or back to the ground. But we cannot think of consuming it. We cannot think of drinking water which is coming after purification and filtration treatment from a sewage plant. But maybe a couple of years later, where when if we go same by the same ways as we are going today, we might have so much of scarcity of water that we might be needed to do the same thing. Could be a possibility. So technology would come to our rescue there. And today also the technology, for example, wind energy, or solar energy, hydro energy, is all enabled because of technology. So we have to use technology judiciously. We have to use technology where we really need it. But as far as at an individual level the consumption is concerned, we together as an individual and as a community, as a society, we need to revisit our needs. And I would urge all of us to kindly look at our ways of consumption so that world can be a more sustainable place and more sustainable in future times. So that's all from me now. Thank you everyone for having me here, giving me this opportunity to present. So that's all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
ma'am, for this. Thank you,
Thank
ma'am,
you.
for this eminent session and elaborative discussion. on sustainability. We have a couple of questions in the chat box, ma'am. Can you put across?
Okay, sure. I can't see a lot of questions in my chat box though.
Ma'am, it's on the other chat box, so we would like to put it across to you if you
Sure,
are
please.
comfortable.
Yes, yes. I would be happy to take them.
Okay, sure. Thank you, ma'am. The first question is, please advise how traditional knowledge and modern scientific knowledge can be integrated to achieve sustainable development. So we would like to have your views on this.
So I'm just assuming that this question is related to architecture. Is it?
Yes, ma'am.
It's related to
Yes, ma'am.
architecture. I think we have had eminent architects who have blended both the things, traditional, knowledge into modern buildings is what a lot of architects have done. And in my view, since I talk, my scientific, area of inquiry is largely towards energy efficient buildings which consume less amount of energy and which are sustainable, which consume optimum amount of resources. I think the first thing that we need to do is to design our buildings comfortable without the use of mechanical means. I think that should be the first attempt. And also use materials which are locally available and where we are not dependent upon very energy intensive materials. So for some reason, I think the change which has been is we need to make very thin structures, and we need to have very high on energy intensive materials such as glass and steel. So of course in cities, in urban areas where we need to go vertical because land is a commodity, where land is not available, that is understandable. There is sustainability. Sustainable buildings would never be like a fixed frame. So even vertical buildings, multi-storied buildings are needed in cities. But what I'm saying is, where there is a possibility, make the buildings as comfortable as possible without the use of mechanical means of thermal comfort, and that can be enabled through the traditional knowledge, uh, what we derive from there. That could be a starting point.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question from the participants is, advice on the effect of future due to pandemic considering sustainability.
Can you come again, Ruma, please?
Advice on the effect of future due to pandemic considering sustainability.
Okay, so I think what you want to ask is what effect would pandemic have on the future architecture as far as sustainability is concerned?
Absolutely.
Okay, so in my opinion, I think the world has revisited their, the ways of consumption. So all of us realize. So see, the moment we talking about sustainability, one thing that I forgot to tell you, and I should have told right in the beginning, is sustainability is a very big phenomena. Okay, you can't have one building as being sustainable. It is a misnomer. Sustainability is where you can possibly think of the effect of your action on everything. Okay, so it is a holistic thing, it is a comprehensive thing, and it is also through a long time. Okay, so the moment we're talking about sustainable architecture, we are looking at an entire region. We are looking at our industries and our consumption. So if we're looking at sustainability of built environment, we are simultaneously looking at reducing the consumption of industrialized products. We are also looking at strengthening the local economy. We are looking at consuming more of local producers and consuming them locally. So if we're looking at sustainable built environment, I think what we should, the future lies in is making communities, local communities more sustainable, which are self-dependent and which are not dependent upon the global, production chains. So the idea of Mahatma Gandhi of a Gram Swaraj is actually the real idea which can be implemented, and very doable, practical idea for sustainable India. So each village becomes sustainable. The built environment becomes sustainable. So it's not about individual building, but it's about communities becoming more sustainable. So strengthening local and reducing our dependence upon global support is something that is the future, in my opinion.
Thank you, ma'am, for this information and this question. The next question that we have here is, as designers and architects, how can we draw a line on what's the need and what people want? What practices in line of sustainability can be adopted, which is acceptable to varied clients also?
Okay, so I understand that when we practice, majority of the times the requirements, the need, as we say, are given by the client. That this is what the client needs, and we are here to just put an order to their needs and produce an aesthetic, building out by organizing their needs properly. That is where we put our creativity to test. Majority of the times we cannot really, I should say, drive the client, but many cases we can actually do that. I'm not talking just about them revisiting their needs, but we can, at least the minimum that we can do is we can enrich them, we can inform them about the kind of materials that they should be going forward for, which are low on energy. We can also be telling them about ways of recycling water, making their homes energy efficient and self-sustainable, net zero energy homes, which is such an easy possibility today. Every home today in our country, individual home, I'm not talking about apartment and multi-storied buildings, it can become a net zero energy and a net zero water home in majority part of our country. That is the bare minimum that all of us as architects can do. That will take off a lot of burden from our municipalities and our nation at large, where the need for air and water is water and energy is reduced. I think the air automatically will become cleaner, and then we use more sustainable materials. These three are the basic things that we can start with, and we can start informing our clients, educating them. If you want to read more about it, please look at the works of architect Hassan Fatih. All of us must have heard about architect Hassan Fatih. And architect Hassan Fatih was once given the task of designing a residence for Prince. Okay, I'm forgetting the name of the prince, but this was somewhere in Egypt, and he was commissioned as an architect to design for the prince. If you look at the design of this residence which Hassan Fatih made for the prince, and it was actually constructed, no one would believe that a prince would be living in such a house. It is a beautiful house, but what it uses, the materials, is what the common people in that province were using. It is mud. He used the vaulted and domical roof. He used mihrabs and wind towers and jalis and screens and courtyards to make that building comfortable. The prince at that time had all the resources in the world available to him to make a lavish, luxurious house. But as an architect, but of course, Hassan Fatih was a celebrated architect. He was a master architect. But the prince was no ordinary client as well. So the point is, if we believe in something as architects, if we are convinced that yes, this is doable, to start with, these three things are absolutely doable, and we should be able to educate our clients. But first, to be convinced, fully convinced that this is doable and we must do this. So, yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Is it okay to take next question, ma'am? Shall
I
we?
can. I'm free. Yeah.
Okay, great. Next question is, vernacular practices are always sustainable. How to revive them and give exposure to the public?
I think again, it's the answer is pretty much similar to what I have just said, which is vernacular practices are, like traditional knowledge, and see, not everything which is there, which was appropriate at that time through traditional knowledge, traditional wisdom, and vernacular architecture is applicable today. Not everything may be applicable today. We can't use stones. We do not have access to these stones. It is now a scarce material. We even do not have access to lime. There are such less lime quarries. We can't possibly use a lime. So we have to look for some new materials which are more sustainable, right? But yes, as far as the planning principles are concerned, designing a residence, now just a very simple thing. If you look at modern houses, suddenly this chhajja is the shade over the window, right? Chhajja has suddenly gone for a toss. I don't see majority of the architects designing chhajjas over their windows and roofs. I remember when I was growing up, almost every roof would be projected outside the wall. So there would be at least a 2 feet projection of roof over the wall, and the windows would have an additional chhajja. Now there are no chhajjas. The wall is all exposed, the window is all exposed, unless the window is a recessed window or a bay window or some beautiful arrangement is there. Suddenly we have stopped making chhajjas. I don't understand why. We can redesign it to look more modern, to go by whatever the aesthetic preference of the people currently is. But we ourselves are not very convinced, I assume, about providing such features which look oldish. We can reinvent them, we can repackage them. So, such things can remain forever. Uh, Courtyards have suddenly disappeared. That is because the plot sizes have started to become smaller. We do not have enough space to provide an open courtyard. But who stops us from providing verandas? Probably that is another social change where people, one, do not have time to sit in verandas and enjoy the morning tea and the evening tea. So verandas are no more needed. Such changes are inevitable. Okay, we cannot do anything about that. It and architecture is always a reflection of time. But some things, for example, this chhaja, why should it go? The climate is anyways becoming harsher. It's the temperatures are increasing. Global warming is there. On one hand, we are saying that, and on the other hand, we are reducing we are totally omitting such important architectural elements. The walls are becoming thinner. Okay, I understand. All of us want to, or all the clients, and we also want to provide thinner walls because it gives more space, and the plots are becoming thinner. But then, at certain point of time, we just have to exercise our right to tell the client that this is not going to be comfortable. We need to have thicker walls. We can't do with 4.5 inches thick brick wall. The walls are needed for thermal comfort. So somewhere we have to educate the client, and this vernacular wisdom and traditional wisdom is there with us reasonably. So first let us get convinced, and then let us start convincing our clients to practice this. Yeah.
Very well said, ma'am. The next question that we have here is it possible to develop sustainable, eco-friendly, smart technology construction within the framework of social policy?
Too many words in this. I'm sorry, I got confused.
I'll just repeat
Eco-friendly
myself.
smart construction. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just repeat myself, ma'am. Is it possible to develop sustainable, eco-friendly, smart technology construction within the framework of social policy?
Within the framework of social policy,
Yes,
I think it is already happening. you know I don't know how much smart are you talking about, if you're talking about smart sensors and a lot of these things. But as far as generating electricity is concerned, I showed you this picture of Demul village from Spiti. It it is a remote village and every household, every single household is powered by solar energy. That is smart. In my opinion, that is the most appropriate usage of technology. It is smart. It is most up to date technology, and people are using it. So I don't know what you really mean by smart, but in my opinion, it is already happening. It is happening for the masses, and that is the way. Until unless the technology becomes so affordable, and not just affordable but also so convenient for people to use, that technology is of no use. So for example, you see the solar, there is such a huge movement around the solar technology. India is still lagging far behind. If you go to China, I was once in this province called Hefei, and one, of course, they don't have villages. People, the government owns all of them, but almost every household is on solar. Okay, almost every household is on solar, and not just for these solar panels, but a lot of other things. So there is so much of potential, and they have made the technology so affordable and cheap for everyone to afford, that it is happening. The same thing we need to do. I am not too sure whether sensors are required. I'm not a great fan of sensors, if that is smart in your opinion, because what we are doing by this is we are making humans dumber. So instead of closing my own window when I'm turning on an air conditioner, I'm putting a responsibility on this human being who's sitting in this office saying you should close your window when the AC is on. I am just delegating this task to a smart sensor, saying, okay, this human being is pretty dumb. You should close the window when the AC is turned on, because this dumb human being sitting here wouldn't close the window. So that's just, but of course, it works where there are so many human beings sitting. So if it's a large office, who will do it? In that case, the smart technology, these sensors and other things might be needed. But as far as residences are concerned, residential architecture is concerned, and architecture for masses is concerned, some technologies are definitely good. And that is already happening, by the way. Yeah.
Jane, thank you, ma'am. The last question that we have here is, while we are exploring our lifestyles and other urban systems to be the benchmarks, are we missing out a contemporary vision and an equitable approach to our sustainable development? We would like to know your views on this now.
Can you repeat the question once again, Ruma, please?
Sure. While we are exploring our lifestyles and other urban systems to meet the benchmarks, are we missing out a contemporary vision and an equitable approach to our sustainable development?
I'm not too.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not too clear as to what the person asking this question is wanting to ask. What we are looking at is what I conclude from my survey and through my presentation is that the line between villages, urban and rural, is blurring. The line between high earning and low earning is also blurring. The line between the developed and the developing is also blurring. Okay, so the world is pretty much coming to the same level almost. It's still far from that. I'm not saying that it is there already, but the lines are blurring pretty much because of so much of communication, so much of easy transport. America is just 24 hours away, isn't that? So anybody can reach America in another 24 hours, and the world has shrunk literally. So what we are looking at is we are looking at a collective lifestyle of people. It's not just this study. What I was presenting is just a starting point where we are looking at different places within India. But in a sense, the study needs to be carried out for the entire world. different cultures promote different sustainability ideas. They have their own idea of sustainability. Certain cultures are out and out consumers. Certain cultures are they have a much lower rate of consumption. So when we are talking about benchmarking it, we are benchmarking the rate of consumption with what the earth ecosystems can provide us. It is not whether the consumption is for benchmarked with Indians or Australians or Americans or anywhere. It is about what earth can provide us, and there we are wanting to seek equity. Okay, so people in rural areas or say in developing countries, they consume lesser as compared to people living in urban areas and in developed countries. So that benchmarking we're looking at from the point of view of Earth's carrying capacity and what the ecosystems can provide for, and nothing else. So I don't know if I understood the question correctly or if I answered to your expectation, but my view on that is this, that we're looking at the world as one, and the rate of consumption also as one benchmark from the carrying capacity point of view.
Very well said, ma'am. It is completely satisfying to our question. And we really thank you for addressing all the questions and taking the session in detail with all the students and participants. Now here, this message goes to all the participants that we would like to take a break of a couple of minutes and we will be back at 12 noon. So I request everyone to join back at 11:50 so that we can begin with the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. In the meanwhile, those who want to be here online and just keep yourself mute till 11:50 is also fine. You can stay connected.